This episode is brought to you by Birch Living, which makes organic, non-toxic mattresses made in the USA. All right, so I got a new mattress from Birch Living. And what's cool about it is that it's using all sustainable or environmentally preferable materials. And they also have these individually wrapped steel coils in here too. So it offers more lumbar support. And I'm gonna be trialing it out because there's 100 days of trial. So you could trial it out for like 3 months and see if you really like it. And as you can see, it is a premium mattress in a box. Look at that big burrito roll. What I really like about this though is that it has latex in it. I kind of describe it as like a really firm tofu, but it's very nice to sleep on. And I love my sleep, so having a solid mattress is good. So let's open this up. I kind of feel like it's one of those things where you unwrap and then it just like unfurls itself.
It's like slowly inflating.
It is, it's slowly inflating, it's crazy. So actually, though I'm gonna be trialing this, this is gonna go in the tiny house that we're renovating at Flock. We looked into this. This is like great materials. It just feels really luxurious. So it's time to give a review of the Birch Living mattress because I have had this for a little time and I absolutely love the support that it gives me. And it was contrasted because I had just come back from Philadelphia and I stayed at my brother's place and his mattress was like sleeping in a hammock. There was absolutely no support. I felt like I was sinking into the mattress. This is absolutely counter. It feels soft. It's very springy, so it kind of gives you that support and that feel that a traditional mattress would. And the other thing that I really love about it is that it's just made with all good materials. So you have the natural latex, you have the organic certification, you have the fair trade certification. There's no volatile organic contaminants coming out of this. And then the third thing I really liked about it and I appreciated is that it was so easy to just get in the door, get it delivered and install it. I mean, you saw like it just kind of popped out and it was there. So if you're looking for a new mattress, you could click the link below or go to birchliving.com/oaks, that's OAKES, for $400 off your mattress plus 2 free pillows. Well, I made it, Philly.
You're here, you made it.
I know. So this is Franco. I say Franco, you say Franco. Franco.
Tomato.
I know. So he sent me an email and was like, you should come to Philly and film. And I was like, I don't usually get down to Philly, but it just so happened that it worked out really well. My dad was driving down here. He was telling me that he's gonna pick up my brother. I'm staying at my brother's place. It's perfect. And I get to see your beautiful location because the last time that I saw you was at the Mutter Museum.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. And you had brought your plants there. Did you even have a storefront at the time?
So we had a tiny storefront 9 doors down that we were sharing with a florist. That's kind of how we came to be.
Yeah.
And then that lease ended right pre-COVID. And then we got a really good deal on this building and we had a lot of time to perfect it. So this is our like permanent home.
That's amazing. I was just commenting, I'm like, this is really a good looking plant shop. And I'm like, did it look this good before we got here? Because I know people prep things, but you said
It's typically, I try to make it like a little botanic garden / museum all the time. Everything that we're seeing here today really wouldn't be possible without my husband, Chris. I feel he has been such a crucial part into bringing this business to fruition with his design of the entire space and just being there day in and day out with operations, because owning a small business is stressful.
It is.
And especially when your entire business is perishable. So I really wouldn't be able to do what we do in sharing nature with our city and beyond if I didn't have somebody like him standing there beside me. He came into my life and really just saw this fire within me and my love for nature and just poured gasoline on it.
Yeah.
And that's how we came to be.
That's amazing. Yeah.
You know, this is what I love and what I enjoy, and I was like, the big goals would be to have a botanic garden museum one day.
Yeah.
That's education forward, and I was like, well, hey, we gotta bring it as best as I can now.
Well, take me around because you have like some real show pieces here.
Totally.
There's gonna be a lot of plants that I don't even know because I'm not really an orchid fiend. I know people in the orchid world would probably be like, but you have some real show stoppers here, and you know, plants that are common and also kind of uncommon.
Yep. I try to fill the whole spectrum. Orchids were my first love. That's kind of what started it all for me.
Yeah.
So I fell in love with, you know, just all the different genera, all the different flower types. I thought it was fascinating that they come from almost every region of the world. So here you see a small slice of that. Everything from the pansy orchids and the miltonias to their cousins across the way, the Anthurium, where you will see several different varieties.
Are those the kind of the dancing
dancing ladies?
Lady cactus. Or,
correct.
Not cactus, the dancing ladies, orchids, yeah.
Yes, so there's a couple different varieties there.
This is exquisite, like look at this.
That is a hybrid known as Kenneth Bivens, but it's with, it's actually an intergeneric hybrid between Brassia and Oncidium.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So when they do the intergeneric crossing, it was not able to produce any kind of viable seeds or?
I'm not totally positive on the process there. I know they're all in the same Oncidium alliance.
Okay.
So it's, they're all still related there, if you will.
I just never know, like when you cross like you know, like an owl and a gasteria, or even like a horse and a donkey. Like does the males become, like does it become sterile? Like does the pollen become sterile?
I think it varies between species because I know there are some orchids that I get in from our orchid grower and I look at the tag and it's like 3 paragraphs long, where it's a hybrid of a hybrid of a hybrid. So
exactly.
I guess it depends.
It really depends. Not too long ago, I was chatting with somebody who had done more of the recalibration of the taxonomy of Senecio.
Okay.
And he was chatting about like
genus.
how it is a weird genus. and he actually has partitioned it up into other genera now as well. But he's like, I wouldn't consider myself a splitter, but he said there was this one real watershed piece that came out from somebody who studies orchids and reclassified the taxonomy of orchids and basically lumped like a ton of different genera together into one genus. And I always wonder about that because if they're doing a lot of these intergeneric crosses, I don't follow the science enough behind it, but if they're doing all these intergeneric crosses, were they really the same species to begin with? Who knows?
Who knows? While we're on the subject of orchids, I could point out some others like Cattleyas here. Yeah,
people love these, right? Because they're just so
It's the classic
bodacious.
corsage.
Yeah.
Yes, bodacious is a great word to describe them.
Yeah.
And then you have like a little zygopetalum here. And then some more cats and a dendrobium around the side of this table. There's so many cool things in between, too.
Indeed, of course. I mean, and you have, of course, you stick your Aroids in there, which I think that you've become a pioneer of here, right? You've been
we can thank
Piper.
We can thank Enid Offalter for that.
Yes.
She turned me on to Philodendron Anthurium at the Aroid show 4 years ago. And it's really fun now because when I go down and visit her, last trip I made, I drove down a truckload of orchids. And she was like, I want more orchids. And so we unloaded literally like 60 plants to her.
Oh my God.
Tied them in her backyard.
You had an effect on her and she had an effect on you.
Yes, so it's mutually beneficial.
Which one is this one?
So that's a weird anthurium. That's Anthurium lutheri. It's a bizarre species that's pretty difficult to grow. It comes from Ecuador. It's similar to Catucuense, if you're familiar with that, but just a singular leaf.
Is this something that is growing more riparian side? Or
it's more montane.
Interesting.
I believe, so it's typically high humidity, rather cool loving, It's something that I struggled with establishing when I got my first mother plant.
Yeah.
Grew it in our greenhouse. It exploded.
Right.
I took its head off.
Helpful to have a little greenhouse, especially because not all plant shops have a little greenhouse too, especially with some of these things if you are bringing them in or if you're getting them in. Being able to harden them off and give people the fighting chance to have them in their home is
one
really
of the things that I think makes this a little unique is I say greenhouse, but we spell it H-A-U-S, greenhouse, because it's more of a modern style warehouse. So it's concrete walls. We're growing primarily under LED. We did input a nice skylight in the system. But I feel that it really gives my customers a little bit of an advantage because I'm growing under artificial kind of conditions. So a lot of people, especially here in the city, that don't have fabulous east-facing, south-facing windows and are growing under grow lights, I feel like the plants are a little bit accustomed to that.
But I still think even if you do have east or south-facing windows, it's not like those windows always have great light. And sometimes if you're getting a plant just like, say, from one of those suppliers is coming from wherever, Ecuador, Panama, whoever you're getting them from, sometimes they come without roots and it's very, you have so much die off. Like I, for one, have learned my lesson in just kind of bringing some things in and thinking it's going to do well if I just pot it up. It needs a little of that extra zhuzhing around the edges.
Zhuzhing and patience.
Is this a Schismatoglottis?
No, so this is actually a really cool new species. I believe it was thought to be Schismatoglottis and it was just separated. The genus is Apoballus.
What?
It's kind of in between Schismatoglottis and Aglonema. So it's Apoballus acuminatissima.
And so when was this discovered?
So I first saw it with Bill Rotolanti of Silverchrome, and he kind of pioneered it and put it out there. I'm not sure where he sourced it, but it's since been in TC. It's something that's really cool that's popped up, really unique, easy to grow, and then you'll actually see a large specimen of that later in our Illarium.
And then so just for folks who are unfamiliar, TC is with tissue culture, which is how a lot of the plants, once it actually gets into production and into the hands of like commercial folks, is it does go through tissue culture. Nice to see that it does grow nicely in tissue culture because not all plants
Not all plants do.
Yeah, exactly. Very interesting. I think this is going to be something that people absolutely love because with even the purplish red aubergine bottoms.
It gets even cooler when it gets bigger.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so does it get glossier? Or
I would say it gets glossy. That glaucous coloration kind of comes through, so it has that bluish tint, and then that deep aubergine kind of purple underside. And then just really lush. You know, it's a really cool plant. That's not too expensive. That's fun, new. And I'm excited to see how the public receives it.
Not too expensive is an interesting one because I think probably as you've seen as you got through plants, things have started to rise. And I think it's just a supply-demand thing, right? At the end of the day.
Absolutely. That's ultimately what it comes down to. You can look at things like, for example, variegated Adansonii. That has been a roller coaster and a half. I know when I first bought my plant, I cried giving Enid a check for $2,000 to get one.
I don't think I've ever paid that for one
It was
plant.
a moment, and I was like, I feel like I need it. And I bit the bullet, but I can tell you that it's one of the best investments I ever purchased because it grows like a weed. You can cut its top off, root it, and now I'm able to offer them at $350, which is pretty cool. And I think the more patient people are, you're gonna see prices come down because it's driven by supply and demand.
I'm hoping that by the time I get my greenhouse and everything, things will start to wane a
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hey, who knows? Who knows? All right, take us through some other showpieces.
So taking us around this way, I mean, this Philodendron goldii.
That's really intense.
Or Thermatophyllum sprucianum, depending on which.
It really depends on what camp. You know, I talked to Tom Croat, and he was like, I don't really agree with it, even though I had my name on that paper. Like, why did you put your name on the paper then? And I haven't really dug my heels into it a little bit more, but I would need to probably speak with one of the main botanists who was on that paper, but they said that there was a lot of like things wrong with the paper to put it in Thermatophyllum, but I think the cat's out of the bag already.
So I'm like, I have one labeled as Thermatophyllum sprucianum, and then I have the small ones labeled as Philodendron goldii.
Okay, so you're like on
in
the
between.
fence officially.
Some fun things. This is Anthurium regale, which typically is known to be a pain in the butt to grow, but these are seed grown. So I kind of feel they've been a lot hardier. They're putting out lush new leaves here in our ambient conditions, which I think is pretty neat. Because
ambient conditions, but it does feel a little humid in here.
we have humidifiers running. You'll see there's a waterfall in the building, so it helps raise all the humidity of the space.
Back to that waterfall idea, like Sandra was like, how can we bring humidity into rooms? And it's like waterfall. But you want to make sure that you don't have like wood floors that it just like sprays up on.
Correct. You'll see how we did it in just a moment.
Okay.
Some other fun stuff. These are some more of our common houseplants.
Yeah.
But even at common, I try to keep them unique. You know, things like.
This is a massive flower, though.
That is Calumnia chocolate soldier of the Gesneriad family.
Yeah, but it's like
huge, right?
Normally, the Calumnias, you see like tiny little orange flowers. So this is a type of cultivar. Was it selected for the flower or for the foliage?
Based on the name, I believe for the foliage.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So I believe in brighter light, the foliage will get even more of that brown tint to it. I guess giving it the name chocolate.
Yeah.
So lots of different varieties here. Some little bromeliads there next to you.
Oh, even this like a little Dracaena, right?
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
That's Dracaena sucralosa. Some people love it, some people hate it, because looking at that foliage, you may think, oh, it looks like it's sick.
Yeah.
But it has that really cool modeling. It's non-viral, or maybe it's a stable virus, if you will.
And a lot of times when somebody says a virus, like you'll often see some kind of yellow patterning, a lot of those viruses, and people are like, oh, that's a really cool patterning. So that's what you mean by the viral aspect of it. And I think that's one of the main pushbacks of people who don't like variegation in plants. They're like, it always looks a little ill. I think it really depends on the variegation, though.
Truly.
You know?
And as long as it's non-transmissible, that's how you can get different cultivars, stuff like that.
Exactly.
These are something noteworthy. Are you familiar with this?
No, but this looks like some type of massive
It's an orchid, yeah. It's Grammatophyllum scriptum. It's also known as the giraffe orchid.
I think I've seen this in one of our many tours of like maybe Thailand or something.
I'm sure. I believe that's where they're from,
and
actually.
I think, like,
they get
had
massive.
Them growing, and he had it in a massive ball, and they were just constantly growing as if it was in a basket. I thought it was like, is that in a basket? He goes, no, that's just how they grow.
Yep.
This is so cool to see it up close. The roots are really dry though, but you can see the new ones coming in and again growing in a similar manner. But what's interesting too is that when the roots die back, it still provides this little basket for things to kind of collect into.
And they're so stiff, so they're almost like spines.
Yeah,
if you feel them, you could probably hurt yourself. If
no, for sure. You wouldn't be able to put your finger in there. And then, but it's funny how you mentioned like how it just engulfs the rock or the container that it's growing in. It's voracious.
It is.
As
it
an
is.
epiphyte.
So this is the world's largest species of orchid.
Yeah.
So actually above your head, you can see the seed pods.
Yeah, these are cool.
Almost good enough to eat.
Yeah. Huge.
Grammatophyllum speciosum. It grows in Thailand and Malaysia. There are other species in Indonesia and Philippines, but they're not as big as these. So the flowers is the size of my hand. You can imagine this is the seed pods.
Yeah.
So they're very showy. You see there's a number of inflorescence. They all comes out once a year, a species orchid do. And then we usually lift them on for display.
So they get super root bound.
Is this sugar?
So yeah,
Do
that's
they have like an ant?
I'm not sure if they have an ant relationship similar to.
Have you ever tasted that?
No, I haven't actually. Should I?
It tastes like cayenne and sugar. Taste that.
Oh wow.
Like a little
it
peppery?
has a little pepper, a little bit of a hint to it.
That's weird.
Interesting.
I hope I don't. No, I'm serious. It tastes a little black and peppery. You know what I mean? It tastes like a shishito almost, with a little sugar.
I'm good. Gotta have one person.
No, I know. I'm the person who like. I'm the person who like goes all in.
Yeah. Hey.
Without asking any questions. But I'm betting that they have some type of relationship with ants.
Similar to like cissus.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Exactly. But that is a very That is a fine taste. Like if I tasted that in our Italian dinner the other day, I'd be like, that is a really good.
I'm gonna be walking around blowing people's minds all day today,
Yeah.
being like, hey, come taste this.
Harvested it.
I know, exactly. Harvested from my orchid, and you could have a little culinary spot right
Yes.
there.
So as we've explored a little bit of the front, we'll walk you kind of through our reptile experience, if you
Okay.
will.
I love that you've brought like animals into the mix, you know,
It's
like herps
all,
and
it all goes together.
Yeah.
You know, but from plants to reptiles, when you're working with terrariums, it meshes really well.
This reminds me of when we were in the Netherlands,
Okay.
and they had a botanic garden, and they had some pest issues, and they actually had to file to become a zoo because they brought in dart frogs and everything like that,
Yep.
and actually to be able to, and they actually even had like small birds.
Oh, interesting.
And I thought that was kind of cool. Even though they had to file to be a zoo, but the fact that they were using biological control,
Yep.
and they said it got people interested more in plants because they stayed around longer because they're like, oh, do you hear that frog?
Yep.
I thought that was a really nice educational experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what we do is we showcase a lot of different species. There's an axolotl here next to us. His name is Gustavo. We just did an Instagram poll to name him there.
Gosh, he's so adorable.
And we kind of set him up on display to show the people that we have them and to tease that we will be doing aquatic plants in the near future.
Well, so you have some of the aquatic plants.
Yeah,
in here,
so
right?
these are some of the things in our display. So a couple different Anubias and Madagascar lace, which is
Yeah.
really cool.
It's cool. I like the, you know, again, this is like one of the
Natural
examples
fenestration.
of, yeah, Monstera. And I learned that it's through cellular die-off.
Yeah.
Very similar to how if you have webbing,
Yep.
and then the cells die off in between your fingers. Very similar to this.
So cool.
So neat, yeah.
So, and then what you have behind us is some of our captive breeding efforts. So we have a lot of things that we work with. It looks like the golden mantellas are out for the camera, which is a critically endangered species of frog from Madagascar. But Josh's frogs actually out of, I believe, Michigan successfully captive bred them and offered them out to the public for sale as captive bred individuals. And I was able to speak with Josh and get a small group of 6 and kind of have them here for educational purposes to show people, you know, some of these amazing creatures in the world.
How do you keep the conditions for the frogs just perfect?
So-
I know there's some challenges with that.
Yeah, so we do use reverse osmosis water to keep it rather pure. And then we're misting by hand, and I'm constantly in there with like a thermo gun checking temperatures and such to make sure that they're all happy and thriving. And then around the way here, you'll see a couple more captive breeding efforts. This guy's a creep and is always in that log staring at you. That is a Chihuahua gecko from New Caledonia. And then you'll also see next to a Europlatus, which are some of the mossy leaf tails.
Yeah.
Which are really neat. That's a species that was often wild caught and imported, and 90% of them died in the pet trade. And
so
it's
sad.
such a beautiful species, and it's such a horrible thing when you walk in and see this crazy looking animal sitting in a Petco. And so many years ago, I decided I'm going to figure out what this species needs and captive breed them. So this pair has been with me now for about 4 to 5 years. They've produced about 30 offspring.
What do you do with all the offspring afterwards?
So what we do is we raise them up to at least 4 months of age, and then I will offer them for sale for people. But I'm not your typical pet store. To buy something from us, you have to go through a whole screening process. We have DocuSign paperwork where I make you provide references, photos of your habitat, show that you've done research, because these animals are living creatures. Some of them live for longer than your dog or cat. You know, tortoises live for 40 years, some longer. So it's something where I wanted to show people these are amazing pets that you can have if you can't have a dog or a cat, especially in cities, you know, like Philly or New York. But you got to do it sustainably, responsibly, and educate yourself before
Right.
you bring something like this into your home.
I think the challenge with some of these, animals, I'm even thinking because I have birds, and there's like no great vets at the end of the day. Like you have, even people will complain that there's not great vets for cats or whatever, but there's more for dogs. But when you start to get to the
Truly.
more obscure, exotic creatures,
We are very lucky in Philadelphia. We work very closely with a vet here in the city, Dr. Michael Weiss, who actually sat on the exotic board for a while. And the guy has spayed female panther chameleons, performed medicine on tarantulas, and the guy is phenomenal.
I mean, I imagine if any city or area that has a zoo,
Correct.
would need some type of, veterinarian that could handle
Is
some of
well
that.
versed.
Yeah.
But no, that is absolutely.
I saw another one kind of peek its head out.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
There are two of them in
Yeah.
there, the boy and girl.
Yeah.
And then behind you are more species. These are animals that are available for adoption. There's a ball python out moving around down
yeah,
there.
That guy. Oh, wow. What beautiful coloration.
That is the wild type, or what they would call a normal ball python. In my opinion, they are the most beautiful. Because now through selective breeding, there's so many different morphs, and you could
Right.
have a solid white snake with blue eyes and such. But for me, the wild types, the way nature made them, are
Yeah,
really the
that's pretty
most stunning.
impressive.
And then you'll see other things, like we have a baby frilled dragon, a Cuban false chameleon. Everything here is,
There.
yep,
It's so hard to like spot them, you know what I mean?
it can be tricky to find them. But everything here is captive bred, either produced by me here in Philadelphia or by local vetted, licensed breeders in the area.
You did such a fine job actually doing the display with them as well. Are you constantly kind of going in there to see if something's kind of deteriorating or
Always.
moldy or something?
So we set everything up with what's known as Bioactive.
Yeah.
So every habitat has springtails and isopods present, which help kind of pick out the poop and break everything down that we may not see. But myself and my team go in there several times a day to make sure that everybody's happy and healthy
Right.
and their habitats
Do
are
you
thriving.
feel as if the herps in here, they get used to you or not really? Are they still?
So we, as you can see, similar to here,
Yeah.
whenever we bring something in, before somebody takes it home, we always want to make sure it's used to human interaction. So we spend time socializing every one of our animals to make sure that it's truly a pet for that person. Because other establishments don't. And you
Yeah.
come home, you buy a snake, and the first thing it wants to do is bite you.
Yeah.
And if you're a newcomer to the hobby of reptile keeping, I don't feel that's fair.
Yeah.
I think it's the pet store's responsibility to make sure that animal is social and able to be engaged with.
Right.
And lastly, at the end of the reptile room, we do have some chameleons. There's a little baby veiled chameleon there, a panther here that's getting ready to go into shed. That's why his
he is.
colors are a little dulled out.
He is huge. I haven't seen one of these guys since Mozambique.
I would love to see them in the wild.
Oh, man.
That is a dream.
Well, the one actually Mozambique, and then I saw one in Madagascar, and the sad thing is that the real bitter thing that was with it is that we found one walking across what used to be a forest, and it was just field, and you could see that it used to be a forest because there was ferns on the ground, and you would not, and the ferns were struggling because they were in direct sun. And I was like, this guy needs a frickin' tree, and where are there trees around here? And I don't know if it had been freshly cut or if he was just, traveling to find a female or something. But I felt like my heart was like, stopped.
It's
for a minute
wrenching.
there. It is a little
and
wrenching.
that's where
yeah.
I feel that this hobby is, small scale conservation in some
Yeah.
aspects, because so many natural environments are being destroyed.
Yeah.
You can see a little carpet chameleon from Madagascar there. She is a permanent resident here. And then we have a mate to her that we are hoping to captive breed as well.
Okay.
But their coloration is just exquisite.
What if she doesn't like him?
So with them, it's always monitored. You never
Yeah.
put them together and walk away and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
figure it out."
Yeah.
That would be a moment of me OCD camping out, making sure that they are getting along.
What do you feed them?
So most of these guys in particular eat live insects.
So do you have crickets? Okay.
We clean crickets twice a day. That is the most fun part of the job here.
Wait, what do you mean you clean them?
So
they have to be like
crickets need care
sanitized, or-
too.
Yeah.
So
They can get pretty smelly and
they
dirty.
can get smelly and
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah.
So we're in there, you go in with a little broom and you sweep them all to one side and you wipe the other side and then
God.
you move them back.
Oh my goodness.
It's a job.
Well, I think what you're saying here is that it's not necessarily for, set it and leave it and forget
Exactly.
it. Kind of, these are animals that need to be constantly cared for, but in very different ways than like a cat or dog.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're members of the family too.
Yeah.
Moving on here, you kind of get the little bit of our piece de resistance, if you will.
This is wonderful.
This is what we call the Illarium. This
Yeah.
is where a lot of my personal collection has ended up because I was growing most of this on the windowsills of my home while we were constructing the store.
It's tough.
And
Yeah.
my husband, Chris, was like, hey, we need to get some of this out of the house.
Yeah.
So he had the idea of building this.
Yeah. Well, at least he had a solution.
He
for
did.
It. It wasn't like, hey, it's either you, me,
Or
or
the-
the plants. And then, just out of curiosity, where did ILL come from? What did it stand for something?
ILL, we kind of shortened it from Philadelphia or Philly,
Okay.
if you will.
Okay.
So we've kind of branded the store, Ill Exotics, Illarium,
I see it.
and it's, Gen Z millennial slang for
Yeah.
cool. But inside here, there's over 100 different species. There's things that we are able to grow to potential to flower. I've used these anthuriums in hybrids. Like right now, there's Warocquianum that's producing pollen. So I'll have to get in there and harvest that.
Oh, can you open it up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll open.
So this is like 2 sliding doors,
Correct.
essentially.
Correct. So
Not
we
bad.
can switch
So-
here.
So this one, see this one with the pollen that's kind of going like this?
The big, long, dark leaf. Yeah. So that's producing pollen there, and then I'm thinking I have papillominum producing a flower up there.
Up
so
there. This one, the reddish one,
correct,
right?
that
With the
red new
little-
leaf.
Yep. And the
So
little-
if you cross those two, you get an Anthurium dark mama, is what
Ooh.
they call it. So and then there's other fun things like Anthurium when Lingeri's in bloom,
Ooh,
the
yeah, look at
corkscrew.
that. Cool. So much to look at in here.
There's a lot of cool
Oh my
things.
God, I kind of feel like, if you gave your Aglaonema pictum tricolor just a little more humidity, like will it look like that?
It
Yeah, totally.
explodes.
Is that a monolina?
So no, that is Labesia. That's Labesia species turtleback.
This one?
Yeah.
Holy shizballs.
And they sell them as little terrarium plants. They're like teeny tiny in a 2-inch pot,
my
but they
God.
clearly get quite large.
I got this peperomia from Enid, and it was like growing as like a little
Yep.
weed.
That's Turboiniensis.
Yes, yeah. Oh, this is marvelous. And here's your
Mother plant of the
yeah.
Adansonii.
Yeah.
That's made all the babies that we offer here in the shop.
Amazing.
Something cool, that's Philodendron brantianum, getting more mature.
I saw that at Bill's,
Yep.
and I was like, wow, that's what it starts to look like when you actually let it
Do its
crawl
thing.
up, yeah. The silver one right here in the back going up.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And then going back to this, I was gonna peep it. If you look, they've been producing berries and kind of almost,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they will come to fruition and produce
Right.
seed,
Yeah.
but I mean, the flower will fall.
Is it so fertile though?
I'm not sure. They'll turn bright orange, and then I've got them to go bright orange, but then I don't pay attention and they
Yeah.
fall, and then
Yeah.
I lose them.
Yeah. Is this some type of piper or is it an anthurium?
That's Anthurium
Okay.
clydemoides.
Okay. And then this one without a sinus.
That is Anthurium peltigerum. That is a more cool growing species. When I actually put it in there, because it runs kind of hot, it struggled for a little bit. So I had to go in there and kind of mount that fan right behind it and
so
give it some airflow.
Yeah.
And now it just gave me that new leaf.
How
which
did you
is really
go
neat.
about and like design this or come up with the idea of designing this? Did you have to look at like different things, or did you just kind of have to like tack it together?
I kind of tacked it together, I'm not gonna lie. And then it was constant editing for the first few months, because I kind of went crazy and put like staghorn ferns in here. And I took a step back and I was like, this stuff is all gonna outgrow.
Yeah.
So there have been several specimens that I've removed over time, but now it's kind of really gotten established and I'm content with it. And I feel like everything has a place and room to grow and room to thrive.
Right. Yeah, because it could very easy, I'm thinking about like even my terrarium at home that I haven't gotten a chance to even, I'm like, I promise I'll clip it back. I have not even clipped it back. These could get so ferocious really quickly.
They can.
But what's nice is that you have a really clear outlet to be able to take cuttings, harden them off, and sell them.
Correct.
Which is so great.
It's really nice too, like we saw the seed-grown regales earlier to show people their potential of what they can grow into.
I mean, and then, so is that what you were referring to?
Correct.
Yeah, so, and what is its name again?
Apoballus.
Apoballus.
Acuminatissima.
Yeah.
And I think the cultivar name is like Laval.
Okay.
But that, as you can see, the pattern gets more exquisite.
Yeah.
It has that red underside, which is really really cool. So this is also kind of cool to see.
Is this a Zebrina?
Zebrina reticulata. That's typically the plant that most people walk up and they're like, what is that?
Really? That's interesting. Just because of the patterning.
I think the patterning and the size.
Yeah.
I didn't know it could get that big.
And maybe just like the severity of the triangular nature of it.
Totally. Totally.
But and then your begonias.
Milano ballata.
Yeah. Looks gorgeous. And then the cuprias right here. And then, of course, you just have like your little ground covers, like the Ficus pumila quercifolia.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
They call that now string of frogs.
That's an appropriate name.
Yeah. Each leaf is supposed to look like a little frog.
Yeah.
I could see it.
Yeah, I could see it. I also think quercifolia because quercus is like an oak.
Yeah,
it has that
exactly.
Kind of lobiness of an oak.
It was interesting because for a while customers were coming in and they're like, do you ever sell string of frogs? And I'm like, what is
that?
string of frogs?
You're like, I know string of dolphins, I know string of
turtles.
And turtles, yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
But that's kind of our little slice of the rainforest, and just to be able to show people mature specimens as they grow and what the full potential for them is.
It's exquisite. What do you
Thank
think
you.
about this, Sonder? It's pretty neat, right?
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's like having a green wall, but it's hard to do that with the humidity, so you build a wall in front of it.
Exactly. Where did you get all this cork? Like this corky...
So there is
it looks like a singular piece.
So they are panels that we cut and fit, but there is actually a cork farm in Maryland, believe it or not.
No.
Yeah,
really?
so they import it, obviously, because cork is... And the reason why we wanted to do cork is one, that the Aroids love it.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy for them to attach to. But the cork wood doesn't really break down, and it's a renewable wood source because the tree produces the bark, and I believe it's every 7 or 9 years you can harvest it off and you're not killing the tree.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. But there is a farm in Maryland that processes cork.
I mean, my cogs are turning because we're in like renovation mode.
Hey.
I wonder what Joey and Keo would go for as well.
If you need help, let us know.
Yeah, we'll definitely let you know.
Some more plants as we exit the Illarium here. Yes.
You should grow the vanilla in there and see if you could actually, like, if it grows some flowers.
The problem is vanilla is voracious.
Yeah, it does. It grows everywhere. Yeah, it would take over everything.
It would take over.
Yeah.
This is another really cool one.
No?
Yeah, these are TC.
Okay.
But it's Anthurium radicans luxurians, which I was really excited to get our hands on and offer because it's such a fun introductory anthurium. has that luxuriance look, not at a luxuriance price, which is nice. So that's super popular with us. Some super lush string of turtles.
Nice, yeah.
This is a propagation out of the Illarium. This is Philodendron heterocraspidon.
I don't know that one.
It's very similar to Petrucciae, but
which I've seen very long.
Yep.
And, yeah.
So they're really neat.
Like Anthurium vitarifolium?
Correct.
Okay. Nice thick leaves on these.
Yes, they're seed grown.
Yeah. You almost could see this sometimes the difference, you know,
Yep.
so with the, but you'd still have to guess.
Totally, totally.
It's lovely. My little peperomias.
I love them. And these ones are so lush.
Yeah.
And then moving along here, some more common houseplants, you know, your Adansonii upatotum, which is a favorite. Some Cebu blue upatotum there. Here's something that's really cool to see, a massive Philodendron tortum.
Wow. I love seeing these unfurl.
It comes out like a ball of spaghetti.
Yeah. I always say it's like a twisted ballerina.
Yes,
you know,
yes, exactly.
Really contorted, but this is exquisite and it's flowering.
Sinuata.
Yeah, can we show
Yeah,
the little
totally.
flower off the back? Sorry.
You're fine.
Look at that. That's gorgeous.
It's such a cool plant.
Yeah, very nice.
Something new that I feel is a classic that you don't see is Anthurium scandens.
Oh yeah, scandens. Yeah.
I feel like this has vanished and you just haven't seen them in so long.
Well, I find, where did I get a small cutting from? One of the old school nurseries has but you never see them with these the fleshy nature.
The fleshy, almost orchid-like roots.
Yeah, very orchid-like.
Yeah, so that was really cool and exciting to see.
Yeah.
So, and they're known for obviously producing berries. I think it's a great beginner anthurium for people to grow because once the berry ripens and turns pearly white, you can kind of take it, squeeze it, get the seed out, and experiment growing from seed.
Do you have to do any kind of scarification on the seed or anything along those lines, or what would you
not
recommend?
really. In my opinion, what I do, it's always time is the restraint. So when that seed is ripe, you want to get it out of the berry and plant it quickly.
Yeah.
And that's why you never see people selling seed packets for these plants, because the viability time is so short.
Do you think that's the case for a lot of tropical plants?
I think that would be true. Yeah,
Because
I imagine.
when I think seeds here, it's like they could
go
last
through
for a
winter.
very long time. Yeah,
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas in the tropics, I guess conditions are so warm and humid that if it kind of sat or wasn't in an optimal spot, it would just decompose.
Is this something that gets? It looks a little, funky now.
Yeah.
Does this get any kind of tripartite leaf, or does it stay the shape?
It gets a little bit more pronounced in the lobes there, but that's the Anthurium bomboiense.
Yeah.
Bomboense. A neat, weird thing.
Yeah, haven't seen that one before.
There's some fun crystallinums up here. I was excited to get these.
Which I just learned.
Because they're exploding.
I just learned that I think they smell like carrots.
Interesting.
Yeah, so if you ever have their inflorescence
I
out.
have one that's in spike. It's not there yet.
I think it smells like carrots with a little, somebody then said a little hint of jasmine. The botanist I was with said, no, it smells like jasmine, but I smelled carrots, and then I told him, and he's like, no, I definitely get carrot smell. But maybe with an underhint of jasmine. So it's like one of those things, when you get an anthurium bloom, smell it. Because there's actually more research on the scents of anthuriums, and I'm like, that's one thing that you don't think about, because people get their anthuriums for their leaves, not necessarily for their scent. And of course, even when you think about the andrianums and the anthochienses, they're more for the kind of the bracts and the floral structures. So
I'm imagining now similar to Ylang Ylang and Chanel No. 5.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
next I'm going to be wearing Anthurium winlingeri.
Which actually has a nice ring to it.
It does, right? Hey. And then you'll see some more plants out and about. This is a really cool large Anthurium. That's the Faustino Morand, which is a Mexican species.
Really thick leaf.
And believe it or
not, like plastic.
People are like, "This is real?"
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
Believe it or not, that's small. They get even larger. And then other goodies, some Hoyas around, Polynura, Matilde, Hindu rope. And then one of the last things I say worth pointing out is we have what we call our little collector cabinet over here. These are some unique and uncommon things that we have regular customers that come in every day to just see what's in the cabinet.
So you switch it out every day?
Pretty much. I try to always keep something fresh, because...
It's like changing the window dressing in your...
Exactly. I mean, that's part of the fun of having a plant shop.
This is a cool cabinet. Where did you get this? No, oh my God, IKEA does such cool stuff.
They do.
This is a little bit cooler than some other people's IKEA cabinets, though.
I saw the mint and I was like, it's so perfect.
It kind of reminds me of like old school, like Victorian greenhouse colors.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in there, these are all propagations, from my personal collection. This is a weird Anthurium celeri that gets super long and narrow at maturity.
And I also love like this kind of the spade foot, like at the edge of before it reaches the petiole. It's a neat shape.
Yeah.
You don't usually see that.
And then some other fun propagations and such.
So which one is this also?
That's a variegated Adansonii.
Okay, that's an Adansonii. Okay.
Yeah.
Is this a little Rhaphidophora cryptantha?
Correct. Little props there.
Yeah, just leave
They're
them out.
fun. A little Florida ghost propagation as well. Oh, this is really neat too. I'm not sure if you've ever seen...
Looks like a Dieffenbachia.
It is a Dieffenbachia.
Yeah.
It's Dieffenbachia crocodile.
Oh, so it kind of folds in.
Yeah, it folds in and has these weird like undulations on the underside.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
I saw these and I was like, okay.
Fascinating. But this is even kind of funky. Do Dieffenbachias have this?
I feel like it's almost in between like Dieffenbachia and Aglaonema.
Aglaonema, like it has a thicker, petiole like that. Like I don't, because oftentimes when I grow my Dieffenbachia, it gets like a nice, it gets caney. Just like, just like a lot of Aglaonemas.
Yep.
But this is like really pronounced.
I thought it was just such a weird plant.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And I was like, I need it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Amazing. Thank you so much for showing us around your space. You've done such an exquisite job. I also love just like the little touches of the, of your lighting fixtures hanging down, those chandeliers. Yes. It just gives it a much more, like so much more panache,
We wanted to, kind of show people that plants can be great accents to the home. A reptile or amphibian terrarium can be a great accent to your home because it's all about, bringing nature indoors, especially in the city, and, nature will never go out of style.
No.
So.
It should never.
It should never, and it better not.
Yeah. Because I put my business in.
Yes, no.
Stay tuned on Plant One On Me for more botanical tours, talks, and how-tos. And if you're looking to further your knowledge on the plant kingdom, then have a look at our various online courses from Troubleshoot Your Houseplants to the Houseplant Masterclass. Additionally, we have a second channel we started last year called Flock Finger Lakes, where we cover more on outdoor gardening, habitat restoration, agroforestry, and even more. So check that out if that interests you. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next episode.